Welcome to TRS Clips, the channel that we hope is a brain workout for you.
Studied in that. Well, we had weekend classes. Otherwise, we were to lead our normal lives. I was going to high school. I was finishing up high school. So, I mean, everything was normal. We had some rules, of course. And Carlotta told us that, look, I will not know if you're breaking the rules or not, but I have an intuition. And I trust that if you are interested in learning, you will also follow the rules. The rules for 3 years were, one was no alcohol of any sort. Others were a bit older than me, of course. One was no, let's say, mixing or having any relationship with the opposite sex for 3 years. And the other one was that the written work, or let's say the textual work which is given to you, you must do that. Because you would be asked questions, not like a test, but just, by the way, to see your reaction to something, almost like a psychotherapeutic test. How do you react to this?
Wow. Okay.
And working with the unknowns. Like, this was fascinating for me. Showing or trying to show that inanimate things can be given life or have life.
For example?
For example, I'll tell you about my first meeting with this situation was that Margaret, one of our teachers, she took me outdoor class, you can say. So we climbed the mountain a bit, and then she came to an altar-like large rock in the front. And she said, that's a large altar left over from, we don't know how long. And on it, she put a little crystal. And she said, I'll just touch it for a while, and then let's see if I can put some life into it. But it does have life of its own. A crystal has life of its own. And then, believe it or not, the crystal started turning. With a light touch, she did put a light touch, but it started whirling. No human finger or touch could do that. So she said, do you believe that inanimate things have life? I said, I do now. And then she taught me some ways in which to, nowadays you could say that how to take an object, a so-called inanimate object, and put life into it and put what we would call magic into it. So that is how many of our things, we say, that's a cursed object. That's a lucky object. I think it works like this. The human energy, at some point or other in time or now, absorbs that energy, and it has its own energy.
Pran Shakti or Chi.
Yes, you're right. And also, if you look at it from another point of view, which I think is very interesting, say, Wicca believes a lot in the use of crystals. Of course, nowadays, New Agers have taken up crystals. I'm not talking of them, because my sort of Wicca is not the New Ager Wicca. But I brought the crystal to India. That is true. That is true.
Do you mind that I'm taking you on tangents in the middle?
No,
It's just
no,
for deeper
no.
understanding.
No problem.
Now, this might seem like a silly question on the surface, but I'm just curious, and I think it might lead to a deeper tangent. How do you, as a witchcraft practitioner, feel about the Harry Potter series?
Well, I confess I haven't read all their books, but what I've seen on TV or films or whatever I've heard, I think they're very entertaining. Some of it has sparks of the actual.
That's what I have heard. And I am so sure that that's why J.K. Rowling stays in her
Yes.
private world.
Yes. You have to go into a private world, If you are really aligned to this, I think she has an intuitive grasp of the subject. And some of it is just for, of course, funds, to entertain. But some of it is...
There's words used in the Harry Potter series. For example, spells.
Yes.
For example, wizard, witch. These are words derived from your world.
Yes, of course.
Right?
Well, spells, now that you brought up spells, Actually, spells are words which can also be called chants, which can also be called mantras. They are the placement of certain words and the way of saying it, which brings about the, what should I say, the magic or the mystical.
What is magic?
Magic is that which we are hard pressed to understand. Magic is something which the ordinary, let's say, person, I'm using the word ordinary, it's not meant to, downgrade anyone, but which we in normal day encounter and yet don't recognize. For example, what we call synchronicity. It is when something happens out of the blue. You're thinking of someone and suddenly that man phones, or that person phones. Or you go down the road, you are hit by a car, and yet you get up and walk away. These things which are not logical in our normal world, but which happen. You fall way down from a high building, some people will collapse, die, some people will walk away. That means you were meant to do this, you were meant to do something else, and destiny has kept you there. But that does not mean that will does not work. Otherwise, there would be no mantras, no spells, no chants. So there is, let's say, 50% this, 50% that. For example, in my first book, Beloved Witch, I had, just for fun, I didn't really believe in, say, love spells, which people are, women especially, are so keen for. I didn't believe in that. Or revenge spells. I kept away from that. I mean, they sounded a bit slimy. So, I mean, I wasn't really a spell person much, but there are spells. And then what happened when I was writing this book, I thought, let's see, just for fun, let me put in a few love spells and see how people react to them. And, and I did. It was mischief, pure mischief on my part. And then I forgot about it. And the book came out. It was very well received. And then I started getting calls from women. Ipsita ji, you have saved my life. So I said, how? You have got me married to the man I loved. And I did your spells and they worked like magic. So I didn't know what to say. I said, oh, I'm so glad. But was it the magic? Are they really then magical? Or was it her just destiny it was supposed to be? Or was it that, her energy spurred up and she got to do it herself? I still don't know really. But those spells are there. And it is true that when you do them, you have to do them in a certain way.
I got to take a tiny kind of monologue section here. And once I'm done with the monologue, I'd love for you to kind of step in and correct me if I'm saying something wrong.
Okay.
There are a couple of books I've read on Wicca a long time ago. And this is what I loosely remember, that your chi, your pran shakti, your human energy is a massive part of any of these spells. I don't know if you call it meditation, but some kind of silence or energy accumulation is the basis of all these spells. And then once you want to execute them and turn that potential energy into kinetic energy, then on certain nights with respect to the moon's waxing or waning, you take objects of a particular color for a particular purpose. So for example, love, I think, is pink if I'm not mistaken, or red.
Or red and pink.
Then money is green, I believe, and etc. etc. You collect all of them on a sacred altar. There's a chanting element like mantras or words that you use. There's intention setting, and there's incense and flames.
Yes.
I'm sorry if I'm being very
go
basic.
ahead. This is what is going on these days. It is true.
But that's not the correct way of doing it?
Well, who's to say what's correct? I don't do it. My tradition, my schools, we never did it.
There's different types of schools.
Yes, there are different types of schools.
Okay.
For example, I mean, it's not, it's called Wicca. They call it Wicca. They choose to call it Wicca. But well, naturally, since I was from the pagan school, which I call the original school, my training or my tradition would be different.
Go on, ma'am, please. This is so fascinating for me.
Well, why do you think that witchcraft, even though much less now, but still in certain quarters is a bad word? Witchcraft.
That's societal conditioning.
Yes, right. Say, witch in the West or the East, I think got suppressed or got a bad name because of organized religion. In the West, it was the church, let's face it. And in our country, well, I won't say anything about organized religion or anything else. But one thing which has always irked me is that till very recently, the Gayatri Mantra was not allowed for women. They could not chant it. So why?
Just like,
Because it was the sun god was supposed to bring in power and strength, and women should not have power and strength. Maybe the only witch of olden times, it's very strange, was Nur Jahan, the Empress Nur Jahan. She was often called Diane because she went down to the Jamuna and read, scried in the water, scried like, Nostradamus. She would see pictures in the river. And and they were true, they came true. And she was called by people who didn't like her, of course. She knew the Dayanka Vidya.
okay.
So we
she-
don't,
okay.
you see, these things are suppressed. That even people with power, with position, with knowledge, they also have the occult power and can use it.
What other anecdotes from India's history?
From India's history, well, as I told you, even in modern times, there have been politicians in our present times. One, I'll tell you about a very funny one. This happened somewhere around 2010 or so. There was this politician in Delhi who was very keen on Wicca, but secretly.
Male, female?
Male,
Okay.
but very, very, hesitant about letting it out that he was. He would come to me, please give me just half an hour and I'll tell you everything. So, all right, he came and he said, you see, he mentioned a certain chair, a certain ministry. That should come to me, but it isn't. But I deserve it. And he mentioned another politician. He's the one who goes up to the Prime Minister and blackmouths me, foul-mouths me. So do something about it. So I said, what would you have me do? He said, give me some kind of, some jadoo, as he called it, some jadoo, so that I overpass that man and I take over this ministry. So, sometimes the mischief strikes you. You get disgusted with people. So I told him, there is a way. He said, bataiye, bataiye. So I said, in these bungalows they have on Lutyens area, the guardhouse is just inside or outside the gate. And their study, the minister's study, is overlooking that. Or they make it like that. So I told him that you do something. Every morning you come to your study, which overlooks the gate. You have to look at the gate. Will your men be there then? Your security and your, other looker afters, will they be there at the gate or near about? He said, हाँ वो तो सुबह 6 बजे से काम शुरू हो जाता है उधर गार्डन में सामने सब वो लोग तो रहेगा ठीक है हम तो सेफ रहेगा. So I said, you do something when they're all there and you can look at them and maybe they can look in on you to see you are safe. You take 3 red roses and you put them to your lips, kiss each one and throw them out the window. and do this to the 3 red roses, which was a lot of junk.
It was rubbish.
Rubbish.
Okay.
So he said, "Ho jayega." I said, "Haan, ho jayega." And he did it. And that was my greatest satisfaction. So you see, I mean, and Wicca is not all just, bad or jala kala jadoo. You have to have humor in life to get it.
Gotcha. Well, have a little fun with it.
Have a little fun with it because you know the real thing.
And the actual real thing takes years of study and practice.
Yes. But unfortunately, nowadays, a lot of the New Agers, people who are doing all this occult stuff now, having chambers, sitting there, charging lakhs of rupees, they do this, whatever comes to mind.
Thank you for consuming this clip, दोस्तों. अगर ऐसे ही और clips explore करने हैं तो इस channel के playlists को ज़रूर explore करना.